welcome everyone to the Omen Path podcast. Alex, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Stifling heat going on in the UK at the minute, but other than that, I'm doing absolutely fine. What about yourself? You good?
Yeah, doing well, thanks. Yeah, I was out in my overalls in the heat today, sweaty.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've also got a special guest with us here today. Chief Splainswalker, I believe is your title, from Manasplaining.
Yeah, giving that to myself. It's not given by anybody else. Yeah, my name's Sam. I work with Freelia guys, and we run a channel called Manasplaining. Nearly got my own name for my channel wrong there, but strong start
all the time.
Yeah, I was gonna say honestly. Yeah, I do it all the time. I still call this the yet to be named Magic the Gathering podcast all the time.
That's a good name.
That's what it used to be. Once you learn as well, it rolls off the tongue quite nicely.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, the way that you said it was so like fluid. It was.
I'm waiting for that crossover moment where all of a sudden my brain goes, Omen Path podcast, not yet to be named Magic the Gathering podcast.
That sounded good too.
Yeah, we'll get there. So, Sam, tell us a little bit about your adventure into Magic. So, where it started, first set, and the things that you like about Magic the Gathering. I know it sounds like a very broad question, but let's just dive on in there.
Oh no, that's a great question. I love that. So I got into Magic. I think it was roughly around just over 3 years ago. So I haven't been playing for very long at all. And the main reason I got into it was I am a huge Hearthstone fiend, specifically Battlegrounds. Like I absolutely adore and still adore playing Hearthstone and Battlegrounds and everything like that. And I was at the pub with my friend Johnny, who was just a really, really good mate of mine, and he also is a big fan of Hearthstone. He basically said, I said to him, I was like, I wish that I could play Hearthstone on a table, in person. And he was like, have you ever played Magic the Gathering? And that literally was, and then we got together, I think the week after that, he gave me, or he lent me, I think he potentially lent me an AC deck, and I played against him against a Cascade deck that he didn't fully understand at the time. So it was a very, very confusing first experience, but I had a great time. I was like, oh, this is fantastic. I also am like a software engineer, so I build apps and things like that. And so I was actually just talking about it just before this, but a lot of my job is is problem solving, and so a lot of Magic the Gathering for me, I could see that immediate crossover, something clicked in my brain very quickly, and I was like, oh, this is great. The amount of variables for me just felt so exciting, because I was like, there are so many cards, and I'm getting into it so late. They've all come out, and they're all here for me, and I basically just have to sit around now and figure them all out. And I'm still, 3 years in, I feel like I barely scratched the surface, which is again continues to excite me about it. So that's kind of how I got into it. The first set that I bought precons from was New Capenna. And that I'm guessing it's just because it was my first set, but that to this day is still my favorite set. I absolutely love New Capenna. I think I'm a sucker for Art Deco and the sort of 20s kind of style. Yeah, it's cool. And I was just like, this is so sick. And then I think I read somewhere recently that there's a very low chance that they will ever return to New Capenna, and that made me very sad. So, so a little bit bummed out, but yeah, I still absolutely love the Capenna set. And I think my favorite sort of style of play has evolved a lot over the last few years while I've been sort of learning on the fly. I was very lucky to get into it with a group of friends who I will talk about in a minute, as that is largely Manasplaining. Sure. And we were all learning at the same pace, and so we were all kind of discovering what the colors did on the fly by basically other people bringing new decks to the table. And over time, I basically figured out that blue is my favorite color, and I'm a horrible blue player, and that's just that's it.
Uh-oh.
My man, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, I'm not proud, but no, it's I love I can't do mono blue. Mono blue's too much, and it has caused too many upsets at the table. But I do love I've forgotten what it is now, but red blue. What's the color combo for that? Is it? That's it. There we go. Love Is It. It's a good balance of like spell slingy stuff. So that's really, really good fun. And we were just talking about Jeskai as well. Big fan of Jeskai.
I always find it. So this is why we love these conversations with people, because it's funny how people start. Normally, a starting point that can sometimes dictate a play style, and sometimes there's hard swings, and sometimes there's not. I mean, myself, I watched a lot of Covert Go Blue. I've been watching him for years. So I watched him play blue, and I watched him play a lot of Azorius, and I just fell in love with the style. And then when I started to play it, I really fell in love with it. I just loved it. But it's actually funny because over the last probably 12 months, I've started to try and actively go out of my way to play different colors. For myself, because I want to experience playing different colors, but also when I'm playing against other people that's playing Golgari or whatever it may be, Dimir, I got a bit more of an understanding of how those decks are built and played, so it helps me play in the future, because I'm not a very good player, but I like to try and get a bit of knowledge from everywhere, so at least I've got an understanding of, okay, well, this could be a bit of a like graveyard control-y deck, or this may be more of a value deck. This probably looks like it's going to be artifacts, or ramp into big boy stuff. Like, do you know what I mean? And I think that
for sure,
because we all, at some point in our journey, we all look at the color pie that's the bedrock of maybe older Magic the Gathering, we could arguably say. And it's funny because they still have that meaning to this day, but it feels different. And it's when you start to play these cards, you start to get a feel for it, and then when you start to then build a deck around it, you're like, oh, I understand what the splash of red really is now, or blue, or anything like that. And I always think about win conditions first when I build a deck, so that's how I build it normally. But it's interesting how that kind of works. I know we've spoke about this on the pod a few times, Dom, but the process is really interesting, and it's funny how you sort of said you started or had that feeling of blue, but you were probably the same as me, because I don't often play a lot of mono blue, because I personally think mono blue's win conditions are not always the most friendliest to bring to an EDH pod. But I do like to splash it, because red's a great example about it. I mean, white is great for me, but even I know that that's going to gum things up. It's going to be a bit of a slower, more of a control-y sort of thing. But when you start to splash that other color, it's great. And then, further on to tries and that sort of stuff, you really get a taste for it then.
I think that's interesting. Yeah, because when you're starting out, and like you say, if you start out in control and someone's playing Golgari deck, you counter their huge creature and then they reanimate it for 1 black mana, and you're like, oh.
I probably shouldn't have done that.
Some white and exile it instead,
Chalk it up as a learning.
Yeah.
But it is.
I was just. It's all it is. I was literally just about to say, like, I think like what you were just saying then about like how the mono blue win cons don't feel good. Like there's that's a big part of like my learning experience since getting into Commander as well. Like I would love to know if other people have had the same experience as me. I'm sure there are lots of people who have. But like when we were all first getting into it, like the goal felt like we were sort of all understanding. Then we all reached this sort of like mutual level of understanding roughly around the same kind of time. Yep. Then we all went off and started building more complex decks and getting all of the rules wrong and stuff, and all questioning. It's like, is that actually that powerful? Like kind of thing. And then we went down like the whole of like, now I must win. Like now I have figured out like how this game works. Exactly. It's like now we must win. And then what that ended up creating for me is like a lot of environments where I would be like awful to play against because I would be so counterspelly and just like unbearable to play with. And I think during that period, like I learned a lot about like sort of the feels bads and like ultimately like how a lot of the job of or at least for me anyway, when I'm playing casual Commander, a lot of the job isn't like, or for me, it's not to win. Like I'm not for casual Commander, at least I'm not there to win. my goal is to like come away with like really good memories or just like have a really, really good game. Yeah. And a lot of the times that means that I lose, and I'm more than happy to do that. Like kind of thing. And I think that's been like a journey that we've all of like Manasplaining has been on like since the very, very beginning. And I'm grateful that I'm a little bit, well, not as aggressively competitive as I was when we were first getting into it. So that was cool.
It's funny because I think a lot of people resonate with the basics of your story. That's exactly what happened with our pods as well. You come into it for the right reasons. You're playing with your friends. You're all starting to figure out. You're going to find your way. You kind of establish yourself, and it is always that classic arms race, and it just gets higher and higher and higher and higher and higher and higher until it gets to a point where it's almost like. That's when the social element comes in. You kind of go, do you know what? We can all play this game. We could keep going higher and higher and higher, but why don't we try and not? And then you find as a group, you find that level and you establish yourself, particularly with a regular pod you play with. It's different when you go to events or, you rock up and play with people you don't know. It's obviously a bit different. But within your pod, I find you normally find that level. Once that level then settles down, you'll generally find there's I characterize it as 3 different levels. Generally, you have pre-con, you have upper casual EDH, and then you have something in the middle that could be a little bit janky or whatever. And Dom said this on the pod plenty of time, and he said it a long time ago, and I used to disagree with it, but actually I tend to agree with it now, which is basically when you sat down in a pod scenario, you're going to grab the commander you want to play anyway. And most people do. Whereas actually, I like to ask people because I'm a bit like you, Sam. I don't really go in with any intention of winning. I want to do fun plays, have a big fat stack, and we're all having a good time. But when you sometimes have those scenarios, like I always like to ask people, say, "Well, what are you playing?" And they'll be like, "Oh, I want to play this," and then I will match that level because I've normally got decks that can match it. And I've done it a few times recently. Someone's like, "Oh, I want to play this." I'm like, "Well, I'm just going to play this pre-con because, I'm just looking for a bit of fun." And actually something I've started to learn in the last probably 6 or 12 months is sometimes if you just hang back a bit on the power level, you actually stand a better percentage chance of winning. And that's not why I do it, but I've been powering down recently, and it has proved to win me more games than it would do if I was to power up. It's an interesting dynamic. I know we've spoken about this beforehand, Dom, but what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I will say is that precons are getting more powerful.
Well, that as well.
There's definitely outliers. Like a couple of weeks ago, I was playing a regular pod, and it's like everyone's playing their regular decks, and I bust out the Caverns of Ixalan, I call it Pant Laser, the dinosaur deck.
I heard about this story.
Just accidentally won that game. Okay, I'll switch to something different. I played another precon, which is the 40k Chaos one, which got a Cascade based, and again, I accidentally won the game. I was like, oh, I accidentally won both games tonight with precons. It's like, so I would say playing with a precon isn't always depowering it, depending on your pod. But yeah, in general, that'll bring it in at a lower level. And yeah, I've got so many decks now that it's just like I've started doing a rotation, so I'll empty my bag completely of all the decks and then put in the 10 that I haven't played with, and then I'll take them. And then, yeah.
I do the exact same thing. Just a bit out of interest, Sam, what's normally your blue win conditions?
Oh God, don't talk to me. I've only just graduated from like pile of cards. Like win conditions have been foreign to me up until very recently. What's been my favorite? Oh, actually, I know what my favorite win condition is, or at least one of my favorite win conditions is making tons and tons of artifacts and then animating them. That's been one of my favorite.
That's a good one.
That's a good one in blue, actually.
That's been one of my favorite ones. I got Cyberdrive Awakener, and that was like so fun. I think I upgraded the. Oh God, it was the Karlov Mana Clue deck, and I upgraded that with Cyberdrive, and it was so fun. And then I tore it apart piece by piece, and now it's barely playable. So I've ruined it now. But
so I started to play in a lot of my particularly blue or my blue-white decks particularly. I started to play. The key piece for me was actually Shark Typhoon, because most people only know it as you will cycle it to get your shark.
in competitive play, that's normally what it's used for, isn't it? Whereas actually in EDH,
it's one of my favorites, because the problem is I'm sure everyone here identifies this, that blue and win conditions are really difficult. Really, traditionally, you're looking to either spell sling, an artifact type of win, extra turns is normally kind of like the.
I think drawing your whole library and winning with a Thassa's Oracle or a Jace. That was the only real way to win in blue for a long time.
Yeah. That would be the sort of more dirty way sort of thing. But you are dead right. Whereas actually, I started to play like things like that. And what's the creature that creates the birds? Is it muttering mermaid or murmuring or
something mystic?
Mystic murmuring, I think it's something like that. Anyway, that's another one because it's creating you evasion creatures. And the Shadow Typhoon is great because you're getting payoff for casting your spells. Oh, well, I want to brainstorm. Oh, there's a 1/1 shark for your worries and that sort of stuff. And so you're getting value off of what you're already doing. It's like a double whammy for it. And I found that started to be my go-to. And then shifted into okay, well, I'm going to stop people from being able to fly as well. So a bit more of a pillow 40. I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to build my army while you guys like scuffle it up and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's interesting how things go around as well. So New Companion you said was your first sort of sets that you brought. Was that your first like release, or was that the first ones that you brought sort of thing?
I think that was my first release. I'm trying to think of like, I honestly don't know. Like everything before that is like a little foggy. But was Dominaria before or after that?
What remastered?
It's like roughly around the same. Yeah, it was remastered. It was roughly around the same time, but I can't remember if it was before or after. Anyway, I know that they were there. Like those boosters were there because I was also buying those as well. Because I was like, oh, this is cool. I had no idea what I was pulling, and I was just like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. New Capenna was the first set, and then I think I bought a precon from Phyrexia that came out like not long after that, which was the red white. So red white.
The Rebels.
Yeah, the Rebels, the tokens that get double strike.
That's right.
And that was really fun as well. That was a great deck. I love that one. Also tore that one apart and have also ruined it. I really, really should learn from my previous mistakes.
The deck lists are available online.
I know. That's like when I was like taking it apart, I was like, I can just put it back together if I need to, like knowing full well that there was no world where I would ever do that. It was just
that's
like,
a lot of work. I've been in that position. It is an amazingly large amount of work, and you get to the point where you're like you almost feel it's like I should have just rebought it. It would have been easier.
And there was some good cards in there. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna get some value out of that. So.
Yeah, 100%. Awesome. Okay, so what then made you transition from yourself sitting around playing with your friends to going, I'm gonna start Manasplaining? Why don't you tell us the inception of that and how it came across? Because I think it's going to be an interesting story.
To be clear, I'd start the YouTube channel Manasplaining. I wasn't actually Manasplaining to people. Like, I want to make that very clear.
I think it's obviously there's a good point to make. There's a big difference between Manasplaining and mansplaining, because some people could get confused by this point. But sorry,
it's when you load up Gather and go, well, actually,
oh yeah, really push that urge down. Also, YouTube is just like adamant that you're spelling it wrong whenever you search for Manasplaining. It's like, do you mean mansplaining? It's like, no, I didn't, and I was like cursing myself every single time. But yeah, no, I think we started doing I have like a little bit of a film background. So I went to when I was at university, I studied media production, and so I did like a vast like kind of like, I guess like just like a lot of different activities surrounding film. So I would like be sometimes behind the camera, sometimes editing, sometimes like producing. Like they gave you like the uni I went to, they gave like a very, very like kind of made you like quite a generalized all-rounder, which I thought was cool. And then I left, and then I didn't use those skills for years. So, like it was But like I've always loved video. I've always loved like, you know, the act of like editing and like putting pieces together. Like I've done editing like over the years, like for personal projects and things like that. And I've always wanted to like, I've always loved filming, or I've always loved like watching board game content on YouTube. So I was watching like, what's it called? Is it Geek and Sundry from forever ago with Will Wheaton, like kind of thing? Like I love that stuff, and Critical Role and everything.
Yeah.
I loved it, and I'm a huge like board game nerd as well. Like I absolutely love board games, and I was saying years ago, I was like, I would love to be able to do like a board game kind of channel. Like I was talking like probably the best part about 10 years ago, and then like I forgot about it largely. Like life just, you know, got in the way, and I didn't really think about it very much. And then when Magic came up, and like it was kind of a little bit of like, I guess like sort of luck in the nature that we, like my very close friends all got into it at the same time, and we were all learning and discovering about the game together at the same pace. And so none of us really felt like we were going off like, you know, like we were wildly overpowered or anything like that. Everyone felt like they were sort of like graduating at the same rate. And there was just a core group of 4 of us that really stuck together, and we were just kind of like, well, you know, we're gonna have a crack at like making some, you know, content. When we first started, the whole thing was like, let's shoot 3 episodes, let's edit 3 episodes, let's watch them back, and if they're terrible, then I was going to use a different word there, but I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear. But if they're terrible, then we just won't put it out, and like nothing lost except for our time. And we were very, very lucky in the nature that Jake's work like basically had like available space that we could use like while they weren't using it, and they were being like incredibly cool and letting us like use that space while nothing was being done there. And so we just set up on the weekend, and we shot 3 really bad episodes that never made it to air, because we were just like, these are like borderline like unwatchable, because like we were like at this point like a year in, so like we were making mistakes left, right, and center, more than we do at the moment, which is a lot. And it was just like it was impossible to edit, and it was just not fun to watch. And so we had one of those 3 kind of worked, and so we didn't really do anything with it for like a long time. Like I think like we shot it, and then we sat on it for the best part of about 6 months. Like we didn't do anything with it. And then I can't remember exactly what happened, but I think I was looking through the our old drive, and I found it, and I was like, oh yeah, we were gonna do this, and then we didn't. And then we you know, spoken about it, but then we'd never really like gone like taken it seriously or anything. And I was like, I'm in a much better space now, like to be able to actually commit myself to this a bit heavier than I could maybe 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And so I just like on a whim basically just like cut it together and learned the difficulties and struggles of editing editing EDH content. Yeah, well, software. Oh, yeah. Premiere. So yeah, I learned on Final Cut, but I moved to Premiere a few years ago, just because it felt like the one to go to. So use Premiere for that, and we use After Effects for all the motion graphics and everything like that. Cool. So once that was all kind of put together, we put it out, and we said we were going to do 3 episodes and then, you know, see how it went. We did 1 episode, we put it out, and then we were immediately on the clock to put out the next one. So we were like, right, okay, cool, let's get it going. Yeah, exactly. And that was in June of last year. So we are just coming up to our 1-year anniversary, which is really exciting. So we're going to do something for that, I think. I don't know what, but we need to try and figure that out. So yeah, really exciting.
Nice.
I'm super happy.
Congratulations.
Yeah, massive congratulations. And it sounds like it's evolved very quickly, but also very naturally as well, which is the best way, really, isn't it?
I think so. Like we went back and we've like watched some of our early episodes, and like a lot of the content now feels like it's still got like that sort of same core energy to it, which is I'm really proud that we managed to like maintain like that for the most part. But I think what we've done is we've upped production value a little bit in a few different ways, and we've also, I think, lent in a little bit to like some of the things that we were a little bit uncertain about, like when we were first starting.
Sure.
And we're becoming I guess we're just finding our identity and finding our feet and taking inspiration from like other YouTubers and other channels that we really, really like admire and appreciate inside the Magic Sphere and outside the Magic Sphere.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of pulling it all together to make this. Play Zelda, and then you make like the food that that is bad. Like when you throw like a bunch of different ingredients in and they don't really work together, and you get the sad sound in. I can't remember which one it's called from Switch. That's sort of Manasplaining.
I love that, but I also love that you can, you're obviously quite process driven, and you're prepared to cut what you've put together down in terms of its pros, its cons, the things that work, the things that don't work, which I think is always really good for growth. But I sort of said to you before the pod actually that I actually find just the style that you guys do is very it's a bit more. It's just got a really nice relaxed feel vibe to it. It feels like you're a fly on the wall of sitting down around 4 friends playing Commander, which is great. There's not that sort of, sometimes there's a bit more of a maybe more professional or a bit of a sterner edge, whereas actually, you sort of said it earlier, you guys shout across the table and bish bash bosh, and it all happens like, and I really like it personally. I think it's fantastic. I really.
Well, on that, thank you very much, because genuinely everything that you just described is exactly what we were hoping to make. Like that's genuinely everything that we're striving to do. So I'm really, really, really pleased that that's the case. One of the things that we sort of we talked about when we first began was actually like how we felt like it can feel a little like, we think the Magic can feel quite intimidating for people who are maybe like getting into the game, who want to learn, who want to get started, who want to learn, who may be showing up to an LGS and don't really know what they're doing. It's really intimidating sometimes to play against people who have been playing for years and stuff. Like even now, people like offer they push their deck over for me to cut it, and I'm like, oh my god, I totally forgot this is a thing, because we never cut each other's decks. Like it's just not a thing that we do. We should, but we don't. And like it's just like that kind of mentality of like how could we basically create a literally, like you described, an additional space at the table and make somebody feel like they're able to like sit down, watch us, absorb like the content, and be able to feel more comfortable about being able to show up to their LGS or doing something else in the future, because they're like, well, I watched these guys do it and they seemed like they were having fun, so yeah. Can't be that bad.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really nice position to place yourself in, because you are dead right. I mean, we've spoken about this plenty of times on the pod and with other people. It's not easy sometimes it's not easy to get into the Magic the Gathering. You were very lucky. You had friends around you that really, really wanted to. I know Don was somewhat similar. I was lucky in a different way, because I am normally the type of person, if I want to go do something, I'll go do it. So I was interested in the game and I love the artwork. And I went and done some research and saw where the local place was to me, LGS. And I just went down there and talked to them. And they were so good with me. And I was very lucky that they had one of our local judges there who sort of said, I can spend some time with you. Let's have a chat. Let's talk about it. We didn't play any games, but there was lots of talking. I'd already done a bit of research, got a bit of an idea. So I was lucky in that respect, but I know some people can't do that, and I understand it. I'm lucky enough that I do have that confidence to do that. Sometimes that confidence gets me into real dodgy positions, but it is what it is. But it's not about. I always think the story isn't about how you got into Magic; it's the fact that you got into Magic. Because once you're in, and it doesn't matter whether we first properly met in Vegas when we were over there last year, and hung out, played a game. It was always really nice. Do you see what I mean? Once you're in that community, it doesn't. I honestly don't think it matters whether you've been playing for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I think outside of the real competitive level, I don't think it really matters. I think anyone will take you underneath their wing, and even the competitive players. If you just rock up to a competitive competition, it's a little bit different. They are there to do their thing. That's what they do. But even outside of it, they'll take you underneath their wing. We're going for some food. Do you want to join us? Oh yeah, I'd love to. It'd be great. Like, do you know what I mean? I've had so many of those experiences, and that's why I honestly think that the Magic community is just incredible. I really do.
Yeah, the community has been really, really wonderful. I like genuinely, I've felt very, very grateful that like we've been able to meet and hang out with like you said, like people like you, like at Vegas, and like everyone else that we've kind of got to run into so far. It's just been so cool. And I think what you were saying earlier on about like when you were at the LGS and there were people who were just excited to talk to you, about the amount of people that I've run into who are like just so excited to just talk to you about Magic the Gathering, and that makes me really happy. It's like it's such a cool thing to just be able to like be like so into something and care so passionately about something, and it be like so like you can be opinionated, but like the opinions never really, you know, like the opinions are all valid. Everything feels like totally, you know, it never feels like gross or anything, and I'm very, very grateful for that. Again, I'm very, very lucky. So yeah.
Well, let me actually just ask a small question on that, because this will become apparent in a minute. But what is your how does your partner feel about you and Magic the Gathering, and when you talk about Magic the Gathering?
Leah has very, very little interest in Magic the Gathering whatsoever, but like Leah also understands and cares a lot that I care for Magic the Gathering. So like she will listen to me. Leah's very much into knitting. She adores like knitting, and so I will like she will talk to me about knitting, ribbing, and knitting and purling and all this other stuff, and I will be like, it sounds so cool, and everything that you're saying to me sounds awesome, and you're so passionate about it, but I cannot understand what it means, like kind of thing in any way, shape, or form. And I feel like it's the same back with Magic the Gathering to her. So like we kind of both have like that sort of like element of things. But yeah, I've suggested getting into Magic a few times, but she's also a software engineer, so sometimes I sometimes feel like there's like a little click there, like the problem solving element, but yeah, we'll see.
The reason why I ask is because my wife is exactly the same. So it's funny because she'll sit there and she'll watch content with me before, and I naturally do this. Like I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, well, they're going to have this, or you know, oh, that's going to get counted, or blah 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 blah. And I naturally find myself talking about this, and it's the amount of times where sort of Joe will say to me, like, "How did you know that was going to happen?" I was like, "Well, it kind of had to," and explain the scenario. And she has probably the same as your partner. There is an interest, but there's also like a fog of not understanding. But the really interesting thing I find with Joan, she's a very intelligent woman, my wife, but she says, I can't understand this game at all. But I sort of said to her, but it's funny because I think if she was to learn the basics, I think once she's got the basics, she would then start to master it very, very quickly. She'd be a very, very good player. And I have said this.
LGS, get some free welcome decks. There you go. Especially when the new Spider-Man ones come out. I'll be.
That's true.
Do you know what? Actually, so on that, the one thing that that Joe is she actually really loves the Magic the Gathering universe stuff. So, you know, the Dominario and that sort of stuff. She'll sit there and she'll look at this and she identifies that as Magic. And it's funny because even as someone that's not in Magic, she'll say to me, do you think it'll be a bit weird having Spider-Man or SpongeBob SquarePants in Magic? I'm like, well, these are all the questions that have been asked at me. It's really interesting. Someone that is outside of the community is asking these questions. It's a very interesting mix sort of thing. But you know, just coming back to what we were sort of saying about like, but once you're in that community, I don't think I've really come across many people, and a lot of the times it comes down to saltiness more so than a genuine bad egg, or I've never come across a cheat or anything like that. But just coming back to your point about cutting decks, part of the reason why I now do that, I pretty much always do it, is particularly with people I don't know or a public event, is because I once had someone made a comment about, oh, we always cut our decks just in case, because you don't want to be accused of like placing cards. And I was a bit like, that's interesting, because that never crossed my mind. But the longer I've been in the community, I've never witnessed it. But there's obviously plenty of videos out there, and this is normally competitive, unfortunately. There are people, unfortunately, that do like to bring down the tone, and they will try and pull those sort of stunts.
There was a recent one, wasn't there, where at a competitive event where they retapped and untapped their mana, and their opponent spotted it and forced them to change it back. And it's like, that's just bad feels at that point. So
Yeah,
you've drawn a card. You don't have the correct mana to cast it, so you're shuffling around your lands, and now you do. You're like, that's just nasty.
Yeah,
but it only really seems to happen at competitive when there's prize money involved. Obviously, people can get nasty about it. I think that's the thing. When there's no stakes, you're only there to have fun with your friends. You're only cheating yourself at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's the way I always look at it.
If you win every time, they're just going to kill you first every game anyway. So
yes. I would blanket by saying I don't care enough to cheat, and I don't mean that as in like I don't care, but the same as what Sam said earlier. I legitimately, if I win or lose, it does not bother me in the slightest. It's about the game, and I do feel like if you have to cheat at a casual commander pod, I do honestly think you have to be asking yourself the questions, is this really what I should be doing?
I'm just thinking back to that game at the previous Command Fest where you went infinite on turn 3 and won the game. Did I cut your deck?
Interesting. Interesting.
Well, you can shut up right now. But, that stuff happens, doesn't it? Like, I'm sure we've all been in that position. You draw your first 7 and you're like, I'm off to the races. And if no one interacts, you're off. Bish, bash, bosh. It
happens. That's the game of chance as well, Sometimes you're going to get the perfect starter.
It certainly does. How about, Sam, have you thought about do you play any other formats, or are you just Commander? Have you thought about it? Have the rest of you guys ever in Manasplaining thought about it?
I think the closest we've come. So I used to play a lot of Arena. So I would play standards. Actually, I don't know what I used to play on Arena. I got into Brawl, but before that, I think I was playing Alchemy for the longest time, and I didn't realize that was like it was Alchemy.
And doesn't exist.
yeah. It was an interesting experience, but a good way to learn. That was a really good way to learn outside of like what I was playing. So no, I would say largely not. No, we've done pre-releases and we've done like a couple of times, and we've sort of shown up and tried to do like the sort of build a 40-60 card deck, and I'm so bad at building cards like decks on the fly. I just don't. I enjoy the atmosphere and I love the energy of a pre-release. But I am like so bad at actually participating in them because like my brain just goes into overdrive and I shut down, and like all I can focus on is like all the cards in front of me, and I just become a social husk. So people will be like, "Oh, do you want a drink or something?" And I'll just be like dead to the world, like eyes glazed over. And that's no fun. Like I really like a big part of Commander and Magic the Gathering for me is like the social aspect. So for me, I think I'm probably always going to be like a Commander first kind of person. But that's just because I like like I said, the politics and the drama of it. Like that whole element for me for Commander is the big get. I love the game, but like I do enjoy the theatrics around it as well.
Sure.
So
there's nothing wrong with. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, there is a little part of me that thinks. I do think entry into the game should be something like standard, because I think it helps teach the core of the game a lot better than Commander. But the problem is Commander's a lot easier. If you've got 3 other friends, you all buy a pre-con, you can sit down and learn together, and you may fumble your way through it, and you may make mistakes. We all make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time, and I forever will do. It's one of those things. But also, it just comes back to what I said earlier. It's about just taking those first steps and doing it more so than anything. But, it's making those decisions between playing casually and going competitive. I went to a competitive Pauper event a couple of weeks ago, completely unprepared. I was so... I had no intentions of winning, and it really showed, because I finished building my deck the day before I went to the event. I hadn't play tested it. I'd probably drew some cards and sort of went, it's relatively keepable, and half had an idea of what I was doing on. I had no idea what I was doing, but you know what? I still thoroughly enjoyed it, and I still say to this day, honestly, so it's Badger in London. Still say to this day, the food there was incredible.
Yeah. I love Badger. The food there is amazing, and the venue.
At least you got something out of it.
Yeah. The venue is sick. Like the amount of space is so good. Yeah, big fan. But that was going to be my question. I was going to follow up with, but did you have fun? Because as long as you have fun, it's fine.
100%, and that's the one thing. So Look, it's very easy, particularly when we've all had a bit of a taste of this now. You put yourself out there on the limb, whether it's with, video content or whatever type of content you produce. There's always going to be someone that likes to make a sarky comment or a negative comment, and you're a bit like, come on, man, that's you don't see a lot of it, but it happens from time to time. But there's one thing I always say to people: is that I am not a good player. I never portrayed to be a good player, and I never will be. I don't think I have the brain capacity for it to be a very good player. The level these guys play at is fantastic, and just to go watch it is exciting for me. There's just nothing better. If you haven't, I honestly say to people, go watch some of the Pro Tour. Go watch it live. Go watch it on streams. It is just so good. It really, really, really is. I just don't think I'll ever have that level. But I also believe if you don't put yourself in those positions to give yourself that taster, you'll never understand, and you'll never get that feel and that vibe for it. And I think it's important. For me, it's about pushing myself out of my comfort zone a little bit. I'm not a competitive player. I never will be a competitive player, but I still want to go and get involved in these things. The next one I'd like to attend, I'd like to actually practice and feel a lot more at home with what I'm doing, more so than anything. But just to answer your question, yeah, I had a thoroughly fun day. I absolutely loved it. I went down with a couple of friends. We had a great time. And yeah, Badger Badger was fantastic, and the food was phenomenal. I would go back to Badger Badger just for the food. I really would do.
It is really good there.
It's so
really
good. Yeah, it's so
I think with competitive, a lot of it is social as well, because if you've got a group of people that play test together, right? So if you're preparing for an event, you might have 4 or 5 of you attending, and you can play against all different decks. Okay, what do I struggle against? I might need to practice against that deck a bit more. My friend's playing that one. Let's do that. So a lot of these pro players, obviously, they're members of teams, and they all get together and they play test the decks, right? So that's a kind of aspect that you don't really see because it's more behind the scenes. But obviously, that does go on.
Yeah.
That's
oftentimes
really
that's what's going to drive them to be at that level, because they played so much against the decks in the meta and things like that.
Actually, listening to those stories, I can't remember the name of the book. I read a book quite a while ago about an old professional Magic player it was the early inceptions of trying to get these teams together. Whereas it's a lot more common now. You see a lot of teams, that sort of stuff. Whereas actually the thing I find really, really interesting is they'll put 2 weeks practice in, and they decide their deck the night before. Do you know what I mean? And you sit and you're like, wow, you've been practicing for 2 weeks and you're making a decision the night before. Or, the amount of times where, say, trying to think who it was now. I think it might have been, it's either Gabriel Nassif, or it might have been Andrew Mangucci. I'm sure it's one of those two. They practice hard on a deck, really, 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 really hard. And then literally last minute, just like, nope, I'm going to go this completely different direction. And I think it might be Gabriel Nassif. I think it might be, and he ended up winning. I think it might have been one of his wins, and you're just like, wow, that's incredible to be practicing with something for so long, and then had a hard turn at last minute to do that well. I mean, that tells you the level these guys. I mean, they work on another level. I mean, they are literally 2 steps ahead of. Well, they'd be 5 steps ahead of me, but do you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things. It's very interesting. It really is. It's a side of Magic that I'll never get into, really, but I find it fascinating. Fascinating.
You can admire it. It's really
100%,
cool.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely 100%. So, what about the future then, Sam? What's the future for Manasplaining? What's on the horizons? What would you like to happen? Shoot for the
You're allowed to talk about.
We're all friends. Yeah. You can tell us all the dirty secrets.
It's a great question. If I had them, I would give them to you. I was saying before we got started. So I have a habit of I often have a lot of plate spinning. I'm very very much the kind of person who likes multiple projects on the go. And I think what we currently have is about 3 kind of cool projects, but I have this innate fear that if I say something into out loud to anybody, it semi-commits me to doing it, and then I fold and then don't want to do it anymore. So there is a part of me that really, really wants to talk about it, but I also don't want to. Absolutely. But basically, we're exploring we're we're changing up a little bit about the way that we do Manasplaining. So right now, Manasplaining is a commander show that is ultimately, generally speaking, for friends who know each other very, very well, with like a mix of guests who like occasionally come in, switch out, and we just have like a game of commander. And we're sort of starting to look at that from a different angle now. We're trying to think of like content that we would be more excited about watching, because like I think what we've done is interesting and cool, but like I don't necessarily believe that it has like a ton of longevity for us. And so we're trying to explore with like new, like what kind of like things would make this game like really, really interesting. What kind of thing, like what kind of like, could we introduce like a like a constraint or a rule or something that generally like just like makes things a lot harder? So recently we did, as like an experiment into this, we started basically doing, let's just all do a kindred deck, like we'll basically all bring to the table like a kindred deck and basically find out who has like the best tribal. And that was a really fun challenge from a deck building perspective, because that was something that like a lot of us hadn't really done before. Like we have tribal decks, but we've never really like done anything with them like seriously. And so that's kind of something that we're exploring with a little bit more, is like how can we do like more interesting kind of concepts like around Magic at the moment, whilst also not straying too far away from like the core game, because I think we still care very very much about like the core rules and everything like that, but we're just trying to figure out like what sort of constraints could we offer to make things more interesting. And I think just goals in general, like we generally just like the community is just such a big part of this for us. Like we were like all of us have been watching like Magic content, but from before we started Manasplaining, and we've been very, very lucky in the nature that we've been able to actually not only hang out but now befriend like people that we used to like watch on YouTube and stuff, and that's been kind of like a wild like ride for us. And like getting to meet those people and then finding out that they're just as excited and passionate about talking about Magic the Gathering as you are is an incredibly lovely experience, and is something that I don't really like. Is quite unmatched. And I think when we first got into this, I don't think any of us would have like pointed to like that as like the reason that we wanted to keep doing it, but it's a real motivator. And being able to go to cons, like we're going to go to MagicCon in Vegas like later on this year again, and going to be able to like actually see like other creators in the US and stuff like that, it's like a really, really big deal for us. And yeah, we've made a lot of friends, and we're really, really grateful for that. So I think the general goal is just like, just keep on making friends. It just sounds really cheesy.
No, it's not. It's a great goal, because that's fundamentally what good content is particularly collaborative content comes across, isn't it? There's nothing worse than, I'm not talking just about Magic the Gathering, anything. When you see someone that is put in front of a community and they have no real interest in it, so me and my wife, we watch a lot of Formula One, and at the beginning of the year, it's interesting to see they had like a big show, and it's all a bit naff, but it is what it is. But they chuck Jack Whitehall in the mix to present, and actually you could tell he was interested. You could tell he knew his stuff. You could tell he knew, he didn't just, he might not have known the full ins and outs of it, but he knew it well enough that could talk about it very competently, make it very, very funny. But there is nothing worse than when they sort of, I tell you a good example about it. So there's I can't remember what daytime TV show it was. I want to say it's Loose Women or something like that. But they had Triple H on, and you're just watching it, and you're like, this makes no sense at all. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like,
that's a weird guess.
It is a really weird guess, and that's the funny thing. I'm sure it was something like that. I remember seeing it, and it's one of those things that it's like, how can you engage? Like, I'm certainly not saying that sort of like women can't be involved in wrestling or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying at all. But there's a really weird crossover there for a morning TV program to bring on. I grew up intimately watching wrestling, so I remember Triple H was the big wrestler. I mean, obviously, I know he does a lot of the management stuff like. So it's just so very, very odd, and you see that with celebrities. Like, you see his weird endorsements. It's like, Yeah, you're just reading and taking the Chapek, my dude. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you find people that are engaged, like I think Henry Cavill is a great example. That's like 40K and that sort of stuff. You can just tell the passion pours out of the man, and it just makes you want to be like, I'm in on this. I don't know what he's doing, but I'm in on it. Do you know what I mean?
I get so excited when I find out like certain like celebrities or whatever are like just like care as much about Magic the Gathering as me, and like I'm just like it's so bizarre that like this like little segment of my brain is shared by this person who is like so like on a totally different like living plane to me, like kind of thing. I'm just like, that's so cool. Like I just absolutely love that so much. I do think the Command Zone does a really good job of like highlighting those celebrities in that way, where it's like obviously they have like the LA star power like element, and they just like I'm trying to think of like one for me is like Aaron Hansen. I had no idea he was like into Magic, and then like saw him on MagicCon, and then saw him on like all the other shows and stuff, and I just again, just love the fact that he's just like super into it and stuff. I'm just like,
I've been watching Game Grumps for years and years and years and years, and it's so funny because I think it was I can't remember if it was the Game Nights or the Professor the first time I saw him. I was like, what's Aaron Hansen doing there? And then you sort of see him talking and playing about it, and it's like, oh my god. And then like you sort of said, I've seen him a couple of times now, a couple of MagicCons. And sort of went and said hi, and he's such a nice dude. And this is the thing as well you find about we always put in these brackets, these guys, but actually they are just like us. They're just nerds at heart, and they're getting involved in the thing that they love, just like us as well, aren't they?
It's so cool.
It is so cool. I absolutely love it, and that again, it's all part of that community coming together. It just honestly, it's fantastic. It really is, dude. It sounds like there's some exciting stuff coming up. And you got your passion is sort of it makes you've said nothing really about other than sort of expanding the community and doing what you're doing and looking at different aspects, but it makes me really excited for what you guys have got in the future. I can feel some good stuff coming. I'm really looking forward to seeing how you guys grow. I really am.
I'm also looking forward to seeing it as well.
Yeah.
No, I think we last thing that I'll say on that actually is something that we care very, very, very much about, and something that we're really, really trying to like figure out, because we are like a lot of us are like, I mean, either early 30s or mid 30s now. Like I've been through burnout. A lot of us have been through burnout. Like other people, like members of Manasplaining, have been through burnout. The goal for this is like sustainability. We want to still be doing this in like X years in whatever form it takes, and like that does mean like a lot of like what I've done in the past has been like go all in on everything, go like absolutely crazy, like make the most like over the top kind of content and literally put every single fiber of my being into it. And whilst we're still doing like some of that, we're not doing it anywhere near to like the degree which is like destroying us, because like everything that we're trying to do is from a consistency perspective. So like when we first started, we were like, oh, we'll do weekly episodes. And I was like, after editing the first episode, I was like, we are not doing weekly episodes. I can promise you that. Like
that's
kind
a
of
lot.
thing. And it's a ton. It's a lot of work. And even with additional editors, like Dane now helps out with the edit. He'll take an edit and I'll take an edit, and it's so much better. But even now, like even with like one edit every 2 weeks, or for us now, I guess every 4 weeks, it's still a ton of work. And it's and we've got shorts in there as well and stuff. Everything that we're trying to do is set up in a way where we're trying to keep it going. Like we basically just want to keep the fire going. And if that means that it doesn't maybe burn as bright in the short term, then I think that's fine. It just needs to keep going. So that's the goal. That's what we're trying to do. And I think the nice thing about that is like we're not aiming for big numbers. We're not like looking at the subscriber count or anything like that. A lot of it for us is just like, if we're still going in a year, that's a win, and that's a really nice goal to have, I think. So yeah, that's kind of the way that we're approaching it this time around.
I think you bring up something that's really important. Actually, it's something that I think if you speak to anyone that creates anything, particularly like a firm of social media, I think burnout is definitely prominent, and I think it's there because I think what a lot of people forget is, I don't know your working conditions, but I run my own business. I have a lot of things going on there. You said something earlier that resonates with me, that I always have plate spin. I mean, Don can tell you, like, I'm always doing something. If I'm away, I'm at an event, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Like, I am terrible, to the point where I do run myself into the ground a little bit. And it comes to a point when my brain just like turns off. And actually, I was thinking about this earlier. My content's been a little bit softer recently because I've just struggled with it. Because I don't want to get to a point of burnout. I love doing what I do. And I've got some amazing plans, some really funny things I want to produce over the next coming year and that sort of stuff. But what I also don't want to do, exactly what you're just sort of saying, is push yourself to a point. It's got to be that long-term sustainability. I've just done, or recently done a long edit, actually, on a Commander piece. It's about 56 minutes long. I naively was just like, it'd be fine. I think I had an amount of time in my head. I smashed through that, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I finished rough cut in the time I thought I'd have it done, and I was like, "I haven't even hit polish yet." It was crazy.
It's brutal. Like EDH edits are so. There's so much work. It's crazy.
But
we
go on. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, we have we'll do like a pass for like the rough cut, and that takes up so much time, and then you kind of get through that, and you feel like most of the work is done. But then actually you go back and you watch it again, and then you're like, oh, actually no, there's a bunch of stuff here that actually now kind of maybe needs motion graphics, because like this wasn't very well explained on the day, and that's our bad, like, kind of thing. And so it's like, okay, cool, so now load up After Effects and do all this other stuff, like, kind of thing. You're making a list and stuff, and it's like, I thought I was near the end. And something else as well, and this is what I have like so much respect for solo creators for, because again, I don't think I can do this, is that if I get to the end of an edit and I'm like, every part of me is just done, like, I'm like, right, I'm finished, I'm shutting the computer down, I'm walking away from it, like, kind of thing, and then I'm just, I'm done. But if I had to then do the thumbnail and the title, I'd be like, man, like, I am like, no way, like, kind of thing. So huge kudos to anybody who can do all of that. Like, that's incredible to me.
I found preparation and a good plan has really helped myself. So I know that. So this edit I've recently done, it's made me really think about the production side of things. Silly little things. So I gave some feedback, which was, can you guys upgrade your seats? Because every time you move, you hear eep. And trying to edit, I can tell by your face, you know this issue, because you kind of sit there, you're sitting there in the editing, and you're like, well, how to get around this? Because you can. So quite a few of the times, it's like a in response, or I'm thinking about doing this, but actually I'm going to do this, and it's easy. You can get rid of that. That one's fine. But the one that's really difficult is we're like, okay, so I'm thinking about doing this thing, and it's you can't. You're just sitting there, and you're like, well, I can't get rid of that, because if I get rid of that, I even try to like dip the background really, really low and sort of put up the treble a bit so you hear the voice over the. No, it just makes it horrific to the point where you're just like, there's nothing you could do other than, oh well, this is what it is, sort of thing.
It's literally the other alternative is to go the other way and lean into it and have like a squeak counter in the top right hand corner of the screen and have that tick up every single time.
Yeah.
See, I do like that. Yeah.
But like, yeah, no, I totally agree. It sucks, but I think that there's like real real value in like doing the squeaky chair thing and then finishing the episode, watching it back and going, oh man, the chairs are really squeaky in there, aren't they? It's like, well, let's fix that for the next episode, like, kind of thing. And if you can get, I think I read somewhere, and probably not in just one place, but like, I think like someone said, like, whenever you put out new like YouTube content, the goal is not to, to get a ton of like views and stuff like that. It's just try and be a bit better than the last one.
Yeah,
and if that means getting rid of the squeaky chair, then that's a win. Like you're a little bit better than last time, and that's great.
So there's one thing, just one quickly, because we're going to talk about some bands in a minute, but just one quick thing, because actually this leads on to it really nicely about it. The first time I went to the first Magic I went to Barcelona. I had all sorts of plans. I was going to do this. I was going to do that. Bang, 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 bang. I turned up, and I'm going to be honest with you, it blew my mind. I couldn't really do anything on the first day. I was just so overwhelmed, but in a good way. I was like highly stimulated. It was a very, very good thing. And it really made me think about how I produce content at events, showcasing videos and stuff like that. And I probably told you when we was in Vegas, but I'd even got a really solid plan. I was like, right, my day one was going to be my showcase day. I was going to do all the B-roll, get that all done and dusted. I was going to think about and talk about the areas and that sort of stuff. And I was wandering around recording myself, and I found myself like, because my brain would just, I had to absorb. I mean, you saw what Vegas was like. It's humongous, and trying to show that on a video was so difficult. But it got to the point when I went, do you know what? I'm not going to do that today. Today, actually, I'm just going to absorb it all in. I'm going to get my feel around it. I'm going to find the places that I found are really interesting, and tomorrow, that's going to be my day. And it was such a better way of doing it. And actually, I was fresher of mind, and it was just on the fly. I weirdly done like a time lapse from one end of the bottom all the way to the front door, or pretty much to the front door. Because I thought that's the only way I could really try and visualize how big this place was. And I wouldn't have thought of that on the first day, because my mind was just like, bonk, it was blank. The lights were on, but no one was home sort of thing. So, yeah, it's... I think you're dead right. You want to if you can just improve a little something every single time, it helps with a bit of planning and helps with a bit of production value. It definitely adds to it, doesn't it?
For sure. 110%.
Okay, so since the last time we recorded, there has been some important Commander or banned restricted announcements. So basically, we've had some unbannings into Commander. So I thought we'd have a little chat about this, because I thought some of the cards there were really interesting, were really, really good, and I thought some of them they didn't was interesting and all that sort of stuff. But the one thing I just want to quickly ask you, Sam, I'm gonna throw you under the bus here a little bit. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
So our very controversial bannings that obviously sparked off some very big changes within the Commander community. Obviously, your Jeweled Lotuses, your Mana Crypts, your Dockside Extortions, and that sort of stuff. You don't get into too much space, but what was your thoughts on the bans themselves and how they went about it as well? Like, 'cause I think it's quite interesting, dynamic.
On the bans or the unbans?
The bans. So these were the bans we had 6 months ago. Were they be now, Dom?
Yeah. So it's Dockside Extortionist, Nardu,
Mana Crypts,
sure.
Jeweled Lotus. Yeah. All the controversy.
I remember it. I was right. Here's the thing. I don't know. I felt really, really bad for everyone who had those cards that the value obviously just tanked. That sucks. But then also but then I don't have any of those cards, and largely because I play so casual, we generally don't ever really use them. I think maybe one of us has a Dockside, and I think that's it. And so for us, there wasn't any direct there wasn't any direct effect. I also this is not a hot take in any way, shape, or form, but ultimately, because Commander for me is just so casual, and the ban list sort of feels less of a hard ban list for us, because again of the pods we play in, and more just a guidance. Yeah. If someone brought in a deck which was made up entirely of ban list cards, I'd be like, I don't know about that.
That kind of thing. A pod. There you go. There's your next unbanned Commander.
Oh, actually, yeah. There we go. Perfect. Yeah, next one. But that kind of stuff to me, I think for us at least, again, I'm very, very grateful because the pod that we play in is a group of our friends. But if one of us just wanted to rule 0 one of those, we would all be totally chill with that. You know, it'd be okay, cool, kind of thing. And if they won, we'd be well, that's because you played with the bad guy.
I think that's,
so we'd have a reason.
I think that's a very common point of view, because I think a lot of people in their communities, they maybe have 1 or 2 of these cards, and realistically, you're dead right. They feel bad for people that lost a lot of money. It's always going to, and I think that's probably where a lot of the venom comes from and all that sort of stuff. But realistically, it's I don't think it's.
It wouldn't have been so bad if they hadn't just released 2 of the cards as chase rares and mythics in recent sets.
Yeah, I think
if that hadn't happened, everyone would be like, okay.
I mean, I still think they could have completely avoided this whole scenarios. I think when they went for that, if they would have sort of said, we're banning Dockside Extortionists and we've got a close eye on Jeweled Lotus and Mana Crypt, that gave people the opportunity, if they wanted to get out, and the people the opportunity to be like, okay, we know something could be coming, but we're not going to get into that. We've already spoke to that. That's not what we're getting into.
I think we've covered out because that's what the game changers list is, isn't it?
So, exactly.
Which has been changed recently as well with these bans. They've added and removed some.
Yeah, we'll have a little chat about that as well. But the only reason why I asked this, Sam, is because some people it affected very, very massively, and some people didn't. Myself, I had a lot of those cards. I never look at my cards in terms of value. So to me, I didn't look at it and be like, oh my God, I've lost, whatever monetary amount. I personally am someone that I'd like to play with as many of the cards as possible. I know there's a reason why bannings are there. I understand this. It's about balance, all that sort of stuff. So I do get it as well. But I find everybody's got a different point of view. Hence why I sort of wanted to ask about it. I think the one thing we've mentioned many a time, but the one thing we can all definitely agree on here is that the backlash and the hatred that come from after all of that was just inexcusable and should never happen.
Oh,
100%. And I hope we never see it again in our community again, because there was a time when I thought, could this tear it apart? Do you know what I mean? It felt so raw for a bit, didn't it?
It was so so vitriolic. It really brought shame for me. I was just like, oh, I agree. Man. These are these are people that are in my sphere and the community of people that I like, and they're all doing all these horrible things to these people who ultimately have done nothing wrong, and that sucks in a big way. So no excuses for that whatsoever.
I definitely agree with that. Okay, well, look, we're in different times and good times. We'll come back onto this. We'll talk about a little bit more later. But let's talk about the initial. We'll go through the unbannings. Dom, why don't you kick us off with the first one? Let's have a little chat about the card itself, whether we think it's a good thing or bad thing, and we'll go from there. We'll just generally have a chit chat about it.
Yeah, so they've decided to unban 5 cards from what was the ban list. The first of which is Gifts Ungiven. Now, this is a 4-mana, 3 generic and a blue instant. You search your library for up to 4 cards with different names and reveal them. Your target opponent chooses 2 of those cards. You put the chosen cards in your graveyard and the rest into your hand, then shuffle.
Yeah.
So this it's normally, I would say, in high powered, this ends the game because you can go get
your combo pieces.
Thassa's Oracle, Demonic Consultation, Reanimate, and a Snapcaster Major and Eternal Witness, and then whichever 2 they give you, you can win the game on the spot. That is normally what this card would be used for, but actually in your average game, you just go get your 4 best cards, right?
You could even politics.
You might get 2 of them, but for 4 mana at instant speed, you're not caring.
You could even politics with this. I know this is going to sound a bit crazy, but for argument's sake, we're all sitting in a pod, and seat number 4 is kicking off horrifically. We can have a conversation of, look, I think I can do something about this, but I'm going to have to go get it. I'm going to cast on Gifts Ungiven. Sam, I'm going to give you the choice, but full disclosure, I'm going to get 2 bits of removal to keep this person in check, and I'm going to get 2 basic forests, blah, blah, blah. So you can almost use it as a bit of a pod. There is some versatility. I mean, Dom is dead right. I mean, we'll come over the other ones. I think this could be the most powerful one that they've unbanned here, but I think this is the one...
Featuring 4 cards with different names, obviously largely irrelevant in Commander.
Yeah.
Tutoring 4 cards at instant speed for 4 mana is insane.
It's the instant speed as well, isn't it? Let's be honest. If this was a sorcery, this would be a banger. But instant speed, particularly we've talked earlier about blue. A lot my playstyle with blue as well is particularly is if I can do it in the opponent before me's end step, I'm going to try and do it to give me as much information as possible. And this is a classic. Dom, you're passing your turn. In your end step, I'm going to give some given. Everyone's going to be like, okay, here we go. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's incredibly powerful. Incredibly powerful.
I did think it was a sorcery, and so the fact that it's an instant is wild because you can be so much more calculated about when you play it, like when everyone's tapped out, and make sure that you that's so much more comfortable. The other thing about it as well, put the chosen cards into your graveyard, like not even exile, so there's recursion there for sure.
Yeah, that's what Dom was saying.
Yeah, you can get two bits of recursion and two things you want, and then whichever they give you, you can get the other back, right?
That's so good.
An example where this would be really good for me is in my Rafine deck, which is a reanimator deck. I'm gonna go get 2 chunky creatures. I'm gonna go get 2 reanimator spells. If you give me 2 chunky creatures, I could probably I can connive them into the bin and reanimate them. If you give me my reanimate spells, I'm putting big creatures in it. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those things. Dom's right.
There's also like Dread Return stuff that you can cast from the graveyard as well. There's
so
numerous
much. Yeah, there's so much.
things you can do with this.
Yeah, I think personally, that undoubtedly, I personally think this is the most powerful one there, and I think the one we will probably see most of. But yeah.
I like the politics element of it. I think that politics side of it feels really fun for me. Like, I would love to sort of cut some deals on well, if you let me have the good hand, I'll do this for you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, that stuff is so fun.
Yeah. And if I'll be honest with you, outside of CDH, I think that's when you'll see this most. Is what I think it will be. Or in very complicated combo decks where you need lots of pieces and they need to be getting lots of pieces quite quickly.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm losing A, B, and C, but I've got this bit, I've got 4 pieces of the puzzle. I'm going to have to find a way of retrieving, 1 and 2, but I've got 3 and 4, and that's absolutely fine. There's lots you can do with this. This is fantastic. I'll take the next one. Sway of the Stars. So this is a sorcery, 8 mana, 8 generic and 2 blue. Each player shuffles his or her hand, graveyard, and permanents he or she owns into their library. They draw 7 cards. Each player's life becomes 7. So, yeah, this is.
If you're playing a 10 mana sorcery, it probably wouldn't be this one. It'd be something like Expropriate that just wins you the game on the spot.
I was gonna say when you're looking at this level of mana, you're looking to win a game anyway. And to be fair, I think this probably pushes you into a position where you're probably looking to win the game anyway. This is either a hard reset or you're looking to win the game.
Yeah, or if you're horrifically behind, or someone's got just made 80 billion tokens or something, you can go, okay, let's just boom, do this. But yeah, it's a 10 mana sorcery.
Yeah, it's expensive. I know there's, you've got ways of, making those type of instance of sorcery cheapers, but still. Yeah, it's an interesting card. I can see why they unbanned it. Yeah, what do you think to this one, Sam?
I think if it didn't say each player's life total becomes 7, I would hate this card. But the fact, because I'd be like, oh man, cool, right? So second game within a game, very sick.
Yeah.
But the fact is, it's permanence, so land as well, right? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think I necessarily understood the gravity of this card when I was reading through the list, because I was like, well, that seems bad.
It's all your lands as well.
It's everything. It's the whole lot. But again, like you said, 10 mana. If you're casting 10 mana, if you're hard casting 10 mana spells, it's like, well, you should probably win the game at this point.
I think this is in blue as well. So it's like you play this, and suddenly the mono red players rubbing their hands with glee because they've got a little.
Yeah, here comes a hasty creature that's going to stove your head in. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's the perfect card to play when the game has just gone on just a bit too long, and there is someone at the table who's playing red, and it's like, all right, cool, just finish us off, please. Here, I'll help.
Yeah.
There's also, if you cast this and then someone Teferi's Protections, you've just lost the game, right?
Yeah, that's gone.
That's the kind of thing that I would love to do.
Yeah,
I would just be like, right, brilliant. And everyone would scoop. I'd be like, oh,
yeah. So, for it's 13 mana for that combination, but it is hilarious.
Very cool.
Well, there's plenty of ways to make treasures in this format, and
there is now. 11 mana is not too much, really.
Yeah, let's be honest about it. Sam, why don't you take the next one,
Braids, Cabal Minion. I have the other braids in my Obeka deck, which is the opposite of this, I believe, where it allows you to put stuff on the field. This one is at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices an artifact, creature, or land. Again, I feel like this is because of my naivety and my lack of understanding of why. I didn't really feel. I was like, this feels bad, but it doesn't feel bad. But then someone mentioned to me that it's possible to get it out on turn 1 or turn 2, and I was like, oh, that's actually awful. That's a really
as soon
really
as you
horrible...
start sacking lands to this, the game's kind of over.
It's grinding.
And not only that, but it's if you can get it out early, and you're basically sort of semi-stopping people from. I mean, you're massively stopping them from doing anything in the game, and that is. To me, that is kind of feels bad. So I would feel very, very uncomfortable playing it. I wouldn't want to play it early. I would want to play it later when it was slightly a bit more manageable and people have tokens and stuff they can sacrifice. Yeah. But it's a cool card. I thought. I was I wonder if there's any benefit of me putting it in Obeka, but absolutely not.
I'm just gonna
a huge cell phone.
This would be hilarious.
I'm just gonna read another card, and these two go hands in hand. And this is a well-known card, the Filth of all filth, Tigrid, God of Fright. Whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent or discards a permanent card, you may put that card from the graveyard onto battlefield on your control. I mean, these two together, absolute filth.
I mean, it's really gross.
It's definitely if you regularly play that type of thing, you're going to get a reputation at your LGS, and I wouldn't be too surprised.
100%.
I wouldn't be too surprised, particularly after game 1, if people be like, "Yeah, we're swapping the pods up." Yeah, and you wouldn't blame them at all, but. Yeah, braids.
You get through 2 turns. I'd be like, no way. I'm not sticking around for this. This is horrible.
Exactly.
It's interesting because the reason they've given, because it was banned back in 2009, is that actually you have a pre-game conversation. If someone says, "Oh, I want to play my braids," you play your deck with efficient removal and it goes fast, or something. It's a pre-game conversation. Say. That's what they've unbanned it for. So it's you sign up to have a game of high power, and this is never going to be used fairly.
No.
This as a commander.
Actually, I think, just sorry to interrupt you quickly, I think if there's one thing that's very interesting, I always used to say this to you, Dom, and you'd always sort of correctly put me in my place to be like, well, that's not always the way, blah, blah, blah. But it's interesting that they're starting to use words coming from Wizards of things like dies to removal, which I find very interesting because this is a classic card where I'd say to you, yeah, but Dom, this just dies to removal, doesn't it? And you'd say to me, yeah, it does, but if you protect it, it's filth, and it's a real feel bad card, blah, blah, blah. So it's interesting. I feel like they've gone down this route, but look, I actually like they've unbanned this. I'll be interested to see how much play it sees, because I bet it's not as much as we think it is.
It's in the same category as Turgid, isn't it? Actually, if your opponent's using a commander, you're going, well, go find yourself another pod.
or you're going to be public enemy number 1.
Exactly. You know
get
what you're
removed
signing
twice
up
and you
for.
can't get enough mana to ever play it again, and
Last thing as well on braids, I think the art is awesome on Braids Cabal Minion. I hadn't seen the card before it got unbanned, so I was like, oh, that's great, that's so sick.
There's something very sinister.
It was a popular commander, I think, back in the day before it got banned. Yeah, because there's numerous ways in black to create a token every turn, and then you're not suffering, all your opponents are crying. So.
Just coming back to what we were talking about, sort of colours and colour charts later, I would arguably say, this is a very fringe black way of playing black, which is you're going to sacrifice stuff or get your opponents to sacrifice stuff. It's mono black control, effectively, isn't it?
Yeah, it's appeared. Getting your opponents to sacrifice this is black's wheelhouse, isn't it? You've got the edicts and things like that. Normally, you're making your opponents sacrifice things. This gives you a sack outlet as well.
Yep.
So it adds that, which actually black often wants to be doing, sacrificing
exactly.
for value.
Yeah, 100%.
It's an interesting card. We'll see how often we see it.
Yeah.
Like you say, I think probably not very much. It did get reprinted in Modern Horizons 2, so it's available. It's out there. So we'll see.
We shall see. Don, do you want to take the next one? This is probably the very interesting one. A lot of people wanted to see this one, didn't they?
This one's my favorite.
Yeah. So it's Coalition Victory. So this is an 8-mana sorcery, 3 generic, and then Wooburg. And it reads: you win the game if you control a land of each basic type and a creature of each color.
Boom. Simple.
Now, you might think that's difficult, but it isn't.
No.
It's not now. Not at all.
A shock land, a triome, and a 5-color commander. Congratulations. You've won the game. However, this 8-mana sorcery does have to resolve for that to happen.
Yeah. So this is a classic card that when it hits if it hits the stack, it has to go. Like the thing I really like about this card actually is this is I'm going to win or you're going to interact with it. There's no other discussion about this.
Again, they've said dice removal. That's in the description. It's a single removal spell. But if no one's got it, I guess the game ends instantly. Yeah.
And you kind of like the thing is that like if you're playing those kind of games with people and like you've got to be fairly late into the game if you're casting like 8-mana spells. Like if you don't have counter magic or something like that, it's like like that was your choice to either hold up that mana or not to play that style. And I personally feel I remember seeing when Coalition Victory I remember seeing that Coalition Victory was on the ban list, and it was probably like last year. And I remember thinking, oh, that feels like a somewhat fair card to me. I was like, if you don't deal with it, then you win the game. Like I think coming from a person who's like Mechanized Production is one of my favorite cards, which is again like generate eight artifacts and you win if you have 8 or more. Mm-hmm. I love those kinds of things because it's like it alternate win conditions, super fun.
That card's got me killed a lot of times actually because you get up to like 6 or 7 and suddenly everyone just full sends at you and you die.
I was going to say, again, that's the thing. People have to remove it, and the best form of removal of that type is player removal. And it's amazing how 3 people can get together very quickly in that sort of stuff. It's like Revel and Riches, isn't it? Like it's one of those things. All of a sudden, everyone just hones in, and off you go.
It allies a table around you, like kind of thing. You're like, okay, cool. I would say the only thing about Coalition Victory is that, like, at least with like Mechanized Production, you can see it coming to a degree. Yeah. But with Coalition Victory, but then you are late in the game.
Yeah, I'm not sure how late it needs to be because if you've got a Jessica's Will or something that pays for 4 of this, if you've got if you only don't need much to actually resolve this. With a 5-color commander.
I mean,
it's interesting.
Yeah, it is an interesting one. There's definitely ways this can be rushed out very quickly. I mean, I personally think if you've rushed to this point and you're casting this early in the game, you've got balls of brass, man, because there's a lot of the time people are going to have things that are going to either stop or remove that condition. Do you know what I mean? So, but I mean, that's the way I would play it personally. I like to be someone that likes to be like, okay, well, you've got to deal with this. Show me you've got it. And you've either got it or you haven't. And if you haven't, that's on me, and I will either go and retrieve it or I'll go for an alternative win. I think this is a good card, actually. I think currently building a 5-color Dragons deck, and I am seriously considering putting this in actually, because I think it might be...
That'd be a cool one.
An alternative one. It's going to be a classic Dragons. So it's going to be a classic, do dragon things, cheat dragons out as quickly as possible, dragons fly on in there. But I do also like there to be not just an alternative as in, oh, well, I'm going to fly with angels instead of something like that, but something completely left field, because people would be like, oh, but you're playing dragons. I'm like, yeah, this is Coalition Victory.
That would be pretty cool.
You might struggle not to kill your opponents with your dragons before you cast it.
I know. Yeah, but that's the thing, and that's the thing I like about it as well. Obviously, because Dragons Tribal, that's pretty strong. It's pretty strong as it is, and sometimes people can get a bit focused on the dragons, and it's very understandable why, because They are big and they are mean and they slap hard in the air. It's difficult to take 8, 9, 10 a time. Do you know what I mean? But I don't think many people will be thinking of this will be up your sleeve, and that's what I really like. So everybody, my mindset is for this is that a lot of people, they'll be using their removal, they'll be trying to stop, the inevitable dragon onslaught. Absolutely fine. Okay, how about this? Oh,
I mean, it's also it does just say you win the game on it. So there's a lot of 9-mana spells like expropriating things where maybe people scoop up and maybe someone wants to play it out, whereas actually this just says you win, the game ends. So
yeah, and then you get side out another one.
The next.
Exactly. It's kind of great.
I personally don't have a problem with that in EDH, and like there is a big difference between a salty scoop or say I don't know, someone casts something and basically puts us three in a headlock and we're not doing anything, but it's probably going to be two or three turns for them to actually win. I'm quite happy to turn to you, Sam, and turn to you, Don, and be like, should we just scoop this up so we can shuffle up and do again? Let's save 10 minutes and we'll just smash on into this. I have no problems with trying to get more games in by playing a bit faster or by cutting those little corners. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
I'd love to get this into a 5-color deck with the new Marvel Storm card, and then try and win the game 5 times.
Yes.
That's the kind of thing that I would love to see if we could make it happen.
It's not actually that difficult in those colors to make tokens of the creatures colors you're missing either.
Yeah.
Oh,
so. Yeah, because you need a creature of each color. But actually, with a Field of the Dead, you can make a zombie. It's easy. There's numerous ways to make tokens of different colors.
All I'm going to say to your stack there, Sam, is Mind Break Trap will make you cry.
Yes. Look, if someone's got Mind Break Trap and they play, I'd be like, you know what, that's fair.
Yeah, you deserve that. You deserve that.
You had it.
What a play. Okay. I will take this one, although, is it Panoptic Mirror? Is that right, Dom?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I don't actually know a massive amount about this one, so let's have a little read about this. So I'll read it, and it sounds like Dom knows all about this. So, right, for 5 generic mana, or 5 colorless mana, Imprint. I love Imprint, by the way, but anyway, we'll come back to that in a minute. X and tap. You may remove an instant or sorcery card with converted mana cost X in your hand from the game. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may copy an imprinted instant or sorcery card and play this card without paying its mana cost. I mean, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I like this. This is a bit of me.
When this announcement came out, I had 4 separate people reach out and say, "Are you going to put Panoptic Mirror now in your Obeka deck?" And I was like, "Hell yes."
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Oh.
It's gonna be so good.
Deck, and this card it's an interesting unban. I'll say that much. And as the text that they've written that goes with it, most of the time you're jamming an extra turn spell under this, and then if no one can interact with that, you've won the game. No one else ever gets another turn in the game. But there's some hilarious thing. One of the examples you've given is a board wipe, which is. If someone does that, you're like, oh no. But maybe
that's kind of
especially
fair.
if it's like a creatureless combo deck, you're like, I'll just put this board wipe under here and then I'll start gathering my combo pieces while you guys are trying to come with your creatures that won't last until my next turn.
Yeah, you can nibble me. And
it's a lot of mana because you have to pay 5 generic mana to play this initially, and then you have to pay the cost of the card you're exiling with it. So you can pay X, tap this, exile your spell, and then someone removes the mirror. You're like, that's real sad because you've lost your spell and you paid 5 mana for nothing.
Yeah.
But if this resolves and no one removes it, you're going to get a lot of value over the game. And a lot of the time, they say maybe people shouldn't be putting extra turn spells under it, but that's what it's going to be used for primarily.
I don't have a problem with that because effectively, if that is resolved,
put coalition victory under it, and then while you're building up your creatures and lands,
The thing is, though, so I don't necessarily have a problem with that because if that resolves, we all know, okay, you've pretty much got this. Like, and again, I'm quite happy to look at Sam and look at you and go, right, we know where this is going. Should we just scoop? And like, have you got a way of dealing with this, Sam? No. Dom? No, I don't neither. Should we just scoop up and we'll go again? I am more than happy to do that. I have no issues with that at all. I also don't mind if Dom, you was to say, well, actually, I've got quite a bit of removal in here. Let me look at my next card first, and then we make that decision. Absolutely fine. But again, it's having a conversation with people in that sort of scenario. I'd actually rather that than say, oh God, like you said, like a board wipe. You know, if you're playing free against, if you're a creature deck, if most of you are creature decks, and you know you've got
something like a supreme verdict that can't be countered.
It can't be countered. Exactly. That's exactly what I was about to sort of say. All of a sudden, then you're just like, wow, what am I doing here? I'm trying to stifle an effect, and you're lucky if you can do that once. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's like that feels like depending on what you put under the mirror depends on how like
it's playing in right as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like if it is a board wipe, that to me feels bad. Like I would feel uncomfortable doing it because I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm basically just locking every creature deck out like of the game basically now, and they've got to sit here and basically stay. Either they scoop or they stay in limbo and not do anything and not play anything, and that to me is like that feels bad. Like I wouldn't want to do that. Yeah. What I am more likely to put under that is some kind of burn spell for a Becca or something, which isn't going to be as effective as some of like the more aggressive ones, but like it's a little bit easier to deal with, and also it's like if you swing in with a Becca, you get you get some hits in, you're going to be able to trigger that multiple times per turn. That's probably the value for me. That's like where I would want to use it. So I probably wouldn't use it to do the extra turns thing. I'd probably be a little bit more right. I'm just going to go aggressive, try and see if there is spells that can basically target players, and then just burn them out.
Yeah. Yep. I think something like a card draw spell is real good.
I was going to say that.
Great point.
Just card value, basically it becomes a card engine. I'm going to memory deluge or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Something that's going to draw you cards and you're going to keep seeing through it. It's just like, yeah, great. You're just going to keep those cards churning through. That's fantastic.
You might see stuff like Nekazar decks put a windfall under this or something. So you're going to be really...
Yeah.
Nekazar is one of my favorite commanders to play against. Like I love being on the other side of a Nekazar. It's so fun. I'm gonna tell Jake that because Jake has a Nekazar deck and he absolutely loves it.
There's so many cards in that deck that could go well in with this.
Yeah.
If he envisages this windfall underneath the Panopto mirror, he is going to be like, "Oh my god, I must have it. I don't care how much it is. I'm buying it."
Have you ever done a freeway Nekazar game before, Sam?
No, that sounds amazing.
It's wild. It's so good fun. It's so good. We done it. I think we done two Nekazars on a Shattergang stream, but also down at our LGS, there was three of us with Nekazar decks, and we were like, "Shall we? Yeah, it'd be rude not to." It's just wild. It is just wild. The problem is actually it gets to the point where you're like, "So who's dying first here?" And it's quite commonly you can cast the spell that you're thinking is going to help you, but actually ends up killing you. It's a style of game I wouldn't want to play all the time, but it is really good fun actually.
Probably quite short as well, I would imagine.
Can be.
Oh, okay.
Can be.
I will say secret tech against Nekazar Urza's armor. It's a 6-mana artifact. If a source would deal damage, you prevent one of that damage. When there was 2 Nekazar decks in our meta, I just kind of put this in every deck, and if you get it, it's funny, but it's a terrible card.
It's really good.
I would say again, they've said in 2025 there are so many answers to artifacts in decks that even if you're on a board lock, can get you out of it. But I've lost so many games where someone's put a problem permanent on the field, and none of the other 3 players can remove it, and so your opponent wins. And they're printing so many cards that there's a lot more problem permanents. I feel sometimes after a board wipe, it goes back around and you're thinking, I need to board wipe again. It's interesting that they're using this as justification for unbans that this stuff dies to removal.
I ultimately think I've thought this for a long, long time, but I fundamentally think there is not enough removal played in our commander decks. The average commander deck, there's not enough removal. I'm guilty of this as well. I mean, look, I'm normally someone that I'll try and play something quite heavily interactive. I like to try and get value out of that as well. I really like flicker style, because I can just use it as defense. So I don't need counter spells. Because if you go to Swords to Plowshare, oh great, well I'll flicker this and I'll get my card draw and life off it. Like that's the kind of style I really like off of it. But
I think there's been a direction away from board wipes as well, due to certain content creators saying, "Oh, take all your boards up. You need targeted removal." But there's so much that needs removing now. If there's 10 things you need to remove and you've got a Swords to Plowshares, you're not in a good state, are you?
Yep,
but also, I think people want games to end as well. So that is a good enough reason for less board wipes as well.
I think there's
sometimes it's necessary.
There's a time and a place for a board wipe. I have further down my playing career, I suppose how we put it. However, the longer I've been playing, the more I've realized actually I'm either going to use a board wipe as part of my strategy. So my Christ, I can't remember what it's called. My dude that basically makes treasures into dudes for combat. I run a lot of board wipes in there because it's fine, because what I'll do is I'll wipe the board. I will go to combat. My treasures will turn to dudes, and I will swing on in there. So it's part of my game style. Push that type of style to one side. I tend to only do it if we really need it to reset the board, or if it's going to put me into a position that I'm hopefully going to win within the next turn or two. Other than that, I will hold it in my hand. I could have the guy to the left of me screaming for it. Oh, we need a board wipe. But I'll just literally sit there and be like, I sit there and think to myself, if I wait 2 turns, he's going to win. We can shuffle up and we'll play again. And again, I would rather do that than wipe the board and we're stuck in that sort of position of like, oh, well, all my mana dorks are gone and I got mana screwed early days, so I've only got 3 mana and I'm basically lucky if I'm casting a turn a spell. This guy's doing the same position. This guy's like, but do you know what I mean? Like, I always think
the rebuild is so painful. You've got no, if you board wipe and you've got no follow up, I'm just like, no, like.
But Dom's right.
It's fine.
Dom's right.
Oftentimes you've just given the black player the win because they cast a Rise of the Dark Realms and they get everything.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's
right?
true. Actually. Yeah,
there can be that as well. But like Dom's right as well, what he said earlier, because sometimes like we'll kind of go, right, okay, a board wipe needs to happen. These 2 guys are just becoming uncontrollable. We need to bring them back to our level. Yep, fine. Blue player says I won't counter it because I agree with you. And Dom's right. By the time you get back around to your turn again, you're like, I feel like I need another one. Like, what the hell, man? Like, they've just vomited tokens out left, right, and centre, and you're like, I'm about to get my head stoved in by rabbits next turn. What's going on here? Like, do you know what I mean? It's a funny one.
It's obviously moving the meter towards targeted removal.
Yeah.
So they've made these bans for some of these cards. I mean, there's only 2 that are permanents, obviously, but yeah, they probably need to be removed. Braids, if it sticks around too long, you've lost. If it's early game, you've lost the game already.
Yeah.
And this mirror, despite us saying what we're going to do with it, your opponents might not be so generous. So most of the time, it's going to be an extra turn spell, and that instantly ends the game if they can get back around to their upkeep. Or say you're in playing Obeka, for example. I agree with that. Straight away, you get like 10 extra turns, and then the next time you get 10 extra, or however hard you're hitting with that. But yeah, it's definitely going in my one.
So okay, let me ask you then, Sam, as a whole, what are you feeling on these unbannings then? Obviously, we've spoke about them individually, but as a collective, how do you feel about this, and how do you feel about that they're looking to unban cards, not just ban cards?
I have not been playing Magic long enough to know about these cards like before they came out or anything. So like a lot of these cards, or some of these cards, I'm seeing for the first time because I just they've never been played in decks and things. Every single one of these unbans I agree with in the way that we currently play Commander, and like I've read through like the descriptions on the blog post. And like I agree with all of it. Like ultimately, there are horrible things that you can do with certain cards, like Braids, for example, if you can get out early. But also, there's horrible things you can do with plenty of other cards. And like you said, if you show up to the table with Braids as your commander, like Dom said, you know what you're signing up for. Like everyone else at the table, it sends a message very loud and very clear. It's the same as what happens whenever I bring my Yuriko deck. It's like, okay, sure, right, one of these, like kind of thing. And it's like, yeah, you know exactly what you're gonna get into. I think a lot of it just comes down to like communication. Like these decks, just like this is just another ability to be able to say to people like, this is the kind of deck I'm bringing. Like if you can deal with it, you can deal with it. If you can't, then maybe I'll pick a different one, like kind of thing. But all of them for me are very exciting. Panoptic Mirror in particular is a really exciting one for me as an Obeka player, and Coalition Victory is just so up my street. Like I love those instant win conditions. Like really really good fun. So like for me, like I'm really really excited about them. And Gifts Ungiven and Sway of the Stars are cards that I had never heard of, like ever, and both of those sound really really cool too. And I kind of like looked at it through the perspective of like, what if these came out like, you know, tomorrow as like part of a new set or anything? And I don't think I would feel like if they came out tomorrow, I don't think I'd be like, oh, that's powerful, but I wouldn't think, oh, that's broken. Like I'd be like, it's good. It's not ban worthy in my opinion, like kind of thing. So I think I agree with all of it. I think it's a really, really good shout, and I'm actually really excited to get my hands on a couple of those for some of the decks, because I think some of them could make for some really, really fun like plays inside of in our games.
Yeah, Dom, what are your thoughts on these as a general?
Yeah, I think Gifts Ungiven is an interesting one. It's throwing a bone to CDH as a way to win. Right?
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
You won't, if you see it in a casual game, it's not, you know, you're shooting 4 cards, 2 go in the bin, 2 in your hand. Okay, fair enough. Like you say, that'll be politicking a lot of the time.
I think you're right with
that. Sway of the Stars, I'll probably never see this card played.
I don't think we'll ever see that. Yeah, I don't think I will.
Although, yeah, no.
I'm going to go out my way to make sure that you see it played now
by me. By all means, it's 10 mana.
Yeah.
And it literally resets the game.
Yeah. I'm just telling you now, Sam, my Flusterstorm is gonna love that card. Even in the gate, like any of them is gonna love that card.
Braids will see play as a commander.
Yep, I think you're right.
I already know someone who's building it.
I do as well.
Pre-built with the foil. Good old Pete.
Yeah, good old Pete. Yeah.
This used to be his commander. I'm pretty sure before it got banned, he played this. So he's really happy about it being unbanned. Yeah. And it's a very particular style of deck. It's an interesting unban for sure. Coalition Victory, hilarious.
Yeah, it is funny.
I'm sure someone will win against me with it, and I'll just be laughing. Yeah. And then Panoptic Mirror. Ooh, I think this one might be the most controversial. But we'll see. It's a lot of mana. It's a lot of mana.
It is. I mean, there's a lot of setup here, and this is the thing. Like, this isn't like Iconic Scepter. Do you know what I mean? This is a bit more expensive. Okay,
and it doesn't happen until your next upkeep. So yeah, and like you say, unless you're Rebecca, this goes a rotation and does absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for 5
and you might have paid. You might have plus whatever you've imprinted.
Yeah, that as well.
I guess you can. I guess you can imprint in the next turn or whenever you really want to. But yeah, it's an interesting one. And also, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say about this, honestly, whether we'll see it or not. I think we will, because it's so powerful.
I agree with
you. But it's also fun, honestly.
If this was free mana, this would just be wild.
I'll compare this to like, if you imagine like Mimic Vat for storing creatures under, it's kind of a similar thing. And how often do you see a Mimic Vat, honestly?
Yeah, no, and you're dead right. That's the thing. I think you're probably right. I think the potential is. Yeah,
infinite turn.
Yeah, the mirror. The
potential.
The mirror could be the one, realistically, that if it's gonna. I think if any of these are probably gonna maybe recatch a ban, it's probably. I don't know if it is maybe this one, but I think it probably is this one. If I'm honest with you,
I imprint again. I hate to mention Teferi's Protection again because that should probably be banned anyway. But you could, you play this, put an extra turn spell under it, Teferi's, boom, you've won the game. There's
that's
nothing your opponents can do. But...
What a wonderful way to win! I love that. I love that. You're giving me so many ideas. Oh, great!
Teferi's Protection, yeah.
So
that got put in the game changer list, didn't it?
It did. Yeah.
Well, rightly so, I would say, because it's so powerful.
We'll come on to game changers in a minute. But
and hilarious with Sway of the Stars as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We'll come on to them in a minute. So I do just want to touch on to them before we finish off. But I do also want to mention on this blog there is a piece that they have talked about Dockside Extortionist, Jeweled Lotus, and Mana Crit. Although I love those cards, and I personally wouldn't have wanted to see them banned, I am actually really glad that they didn't unban them at this moment in time, because I feel like that would have set a precedent for people that if I scream and shout loud enough and if I be abusive, they will change the way these things work. And I actually applaud them not doing this. Although, like I said, in the future, I'd like it to be a consideration and maybe something could be. But I like that they didn't. I think they've dealt with this very nicely.
What they've said is for this year, the book is closed on these two cards. They're not going to be unbanning them. It looks like the only one that will probably get unbanned is Jeweled Lotus.
Jeweled Lotus, yeah.
It feels like, but not this year. No. So,
and I like that. I mean, if there's one thing I would say to anyone that is interested in the format at all, go read this. Go read this article by Gavin Verhey. And I tell you what, the one thing that I took from it is if the format feels like it's in some safe hands. It's obviously not just Gavin. There's a lot of people that are working behind the scenes with them as well. But it feels like we're in a really good place. We've spoken about this previously. The bracket system, I'm a big fan of this bracket system. I do think there are holes, and I don't think it's perfect. It is still in the beta. They are still working on it, but I think it's a decent framework. And
they've slightly updated the graphic as well to give a little bit more info, although it's not in this article.
Yeah, exactly. But the one thing that we'll just sort of touch on here as well now is that obviously the game changers have changed, and it's interesting because I do like this idea of game changers because it helps with the brackets, but it also helps with people being like, this card is a potential to catch a ban. So if you've got a card that's a couple of £300 or something like that, or even £50, you know what you're getting into. You know there's a potential that could at any point catch the next ban or something like that. And at least it feels like a bit of a heads up, unlike, say, the last free one. So hopefully that goes a bit halfway house between trying to just smooth out the system.
A lot of them are powerful, but a lot of them will almost certainly never get banned. Because it is a way to obviously commit your deck to a bracket, isn't it? By how many you put in there. But I think, what if something is banned, it will come from this list is a nice thing.
Yeah. Unless they have sort of said, unless there is like something like Nadu would be an emergency, which
what they've called that they've said there's no further changes to the ban list for the rest of the year in this article as well. So there'll be no further change, but they've coined it as the Nadu contingency.
I think that's a nice nod because I think we all know, including them, there was a mistake had happened. It slipped through the net, and I feel like that's them holding their hands up, like, okay, we this one was on us.
If something from the Spider-Man set is so insane that it needs an emergency ban, they've given themselves the power to do that. But
exactly, and I do like that.
Chances of that happening are probably low.
I agree.
Although the fact that changes get made to cards after playtest and before print means that there might be again. It's happened before. I'm sure it'll happen again sometime.
They had that with one of the Pauper cards in Modern Horizons 3, whereas before it was even released, they had to ban it because it was just going to cause problems.
Yeah. But they can pre-ban it like they did with that little otter and EDH. You can pre-ban stuff. Yeah. And then people haven't invested their time and money into think about it then, haven't they? So.
Yeah, exactly. I think so some of the cards that were added to the game changers, I mean, we spoke about the previous game changers beforehand, Dom. They were definitely missing some of the cards that have been added. And it feels like, although it's feeling a bit more chunkier, it definitely feels like, particularly some of the green cards, it feels like they've just sort of brought it a bit more up to date. There was a few holes, where you're a bit like, you know, Seaborn Muse is a pretty powerful card, and Worldly Tutor is still a tutor card and all this sort of stuff. So it's nice that they've added like some stuff and bits and bobs like that. I really like what they're doing at the minute. I feel like I said, I feel like we're in safe hands, and I feel like they've made some good stuff here.
Notably, all of the unbans have gone onto the game changer list. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah. Well, I think that was what they effectively wanted. I think I remember from the first. It
lets them reban them if there's a problem.
Yeah. So they're
the unban. Right.
They're not leaving themselves into a position where, oh Christ, there's problems. We're gonna have to put it onto the game changers to then do it. It gives them wiggle room, and I think that's fine, because if one of those cards we've spoke about becomes a real problem, then obviously it probably does need to catch a ban. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Dom's going to horrifically agree with this, and I would also probably do it for 6 months and then want to go back, but I'd love to see Prime Time back in Primeval Titan. I'd love to see that. I just want to flicker the living hell out of it.
So actually, in the previous article, we were talking about the bans. They've gone through all of the existing cards and talked about whether they will consider returning them to the format.
Yep.
So there's a few in there, like Ionia. It's like a 9-mana angel that locks out a single color. They've said, well, maybe it can come back. There's cards like, if they're saying this dies to removal on all these unbans, then the vast majority of the cards on the ban list fall into that category, honestly.
Yep.
And yeah, the problem with Prime Time, it's Dockside 2.0.
Yep. No, and I agree with you, and that's why I love it. But on that note, there's the wording around the wording around Grizzlebrand I found quite interesting, because they are saying here that they can imagine a world where it returns to higher brackets play, and I find that very interesting.
It's mad. No.
Yeah, Grizzlebrand is a beast. I mean, I've only ever seen this in power cubes, and it just does work. It just does work.
You think you're willing to pay the 7 life to draw 7 cards in a 20 life format, right?
Yeah.
So in a 40 life format, you draw 30 cards. There's a good chance you've won the game at that point.
Or you're well set up at the very least, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're on 4 life, because you've drawn half your library, right? So
what would you like to see unbanned, Sam? If you could wave your magic wand and unban something, what would you like to see?
I'd need to know what was on the ban list currently.
I love that you don't know. I think it's so good. No, honestly, I think it's so good, because you guys clearly just play the cards you've got and you roll with it, and I love that. I really, really do. I think it's fantastic.
It's very, very wholesome. It's very, very much just like, these are the ones that we know. We don't know any of the other not allowed ones. I don't know. Genuinely, I don't know. I'd have to have a look at the list to see like what they are. I mean, obviously the Moxes are really, really nice. The one thing I was going to mention about the new addition to the brackets is when they did the first round of game changes, the first thing I said when I saw it, I was like, I cannot believe that Necropotence is not on there, because I was like, Necropotence is like broken. Like, well, it's kind of it can be so broken, especially in a black deck where like life is.
It's not far off Grizzlebrand, is it?
No, it's really not.
It's so good. It's also so cheap. It's like 3 mana. So I was amazed when it wasn't on there, and then put it in a bunch of decks, and now I guess they're all a little bit higher because they've all got Necropotence in them. But yeah, I agreed with it. I thought it was a good call.
I would arguably say, Lo, if you're going to insert a Necropotence into a deck, it's gonna be a bracket 3 or above at the very least. I don't think many people are really making a bracket 3 and whacking a Necropotence in there. Do you know what I mean? I think there are other value game changers you'd rather have in there than the Necropotence.
That's true.
That's taking nothing away from the card, because it is incredibly powerful. You're dead right.
It's an awesome card. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, I do like it.
I think one card that's on the ban list that I would love to see unbanned. I think it's on the ban list anyway. Time Twister.
No, that's legal.
It's not bad.
Is that legal?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Fine. All right, in that case, then
Just
ignore me. I guess
it costs £80 million.
because it costs so much money.
Does have that?
I was like, is it illegal?
So yeah.
I had it in my head. I was like, is it illegal or expensive? It's one of the two, because that's the reason I don't have it.
There's weirdly quite a few cards where you'd arguably kind of go, you'd naturally think, well, I've never seen them, so they must be banned. But it's not. It's because they are just incredibly
It's always reserve list cards, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Just have never been reprinted, and
so Mishra's Workshop is a classic behind it. So that's just gone to the game changers, and that's some serious money as well. Very powerful. But yeah.
Hey, Time Twister would be pretty fun to put under the Panoptic Mirror, so that could be pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
I love telling this story, so I'm going to quickly tell you a very quick story, Sam, because this just sums me up as the arsehole I really am. So just before Hullbreacher got banned, I built it's very similar to like a Narset Partner Vows style of deck. It was very, very, very filthy, and I cast a Time Twister in response Hullbreachered, and it resolved, and it was so good, but it was so filthy, but it was so good at the same time, because everyone was like, "Oh, great."
you do it, and you feel so good in doing it, and then you go through the roller coaster of, oh god, now everyone hates me, and then everyone does it, and you're like, still feels good, like it's.
It's a very memorable moment for me. It's something that I will never forget, because it's a very powerful play, and it's also a very controversial play. But roller coaster is definitely right, because I'd done it, and as soon as I heard it resolving, I was just like, yes. Oh yeah. When I'm sitting there, and
that's just scooping up.
Yeah. But that's
it's just nice to see these cards played, honestly, because they're so old, and it's like you don't often see them. So actually, it does make for a memorable moment when you do see one of those cards. So
I do enjoy if I can. I'm not sort of saying for cards like Time Twister or anything like that, but if I can get my hold on older versions of cards, I do like to try and get hold of them, because I know there is an argument that the older art style is nowhere near as complicated or has the depth that the modern stuff does. But it is classic. And although I wasn't playing when these cards were around, there's still a real nostalgic value about it. And, you take something like Black Lotus, it's an iconic piece of art that most Magic the Gathering players know. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It really, really does.
I think that's why they want to bring back Jeweled Lotus, honestly, although it's not going to happen this year, obviously, because it does kind of refer back. You can see them trying, can't you? Because you've got like the 5-color commander that can create a Black Lotus token. You can instantly cast and things like that. They desperately want these things in the format.
Yeah, of course they do.
Yeah.
Also, the Jeweled Lotus art from Commander Masters, the collectors, so good. Yeah. It's so nice.
I pulled one of those, the really, really nice like foily versions, and I was just blown away. You put it underneath. So when I sort of take pictures of my nice cards, I normally have like three levels of lighting, sometimes even 4, just to really get its pop. It was just fantastic. And actually, a photograph never done it justice. It really didn't. It is a beautiful piece.
It's gorgeous. I would really like to see Jeweled Lotus unbanned, if not so that I could put it, because I think since Commander Masters came out, I think that I now have a wider range of power in my decks, and so there are decks now where Jeweled Lotus would actually fit pretty neatly into that I would feel more comfortable playing now.
Yep.
And I would love to have, the beautiful art for it, and it would be so good.
Until you get a turn 1 braids played against.
Yes.
But I do
sacrifice anything else at all costs.
As much as there are problems like that, and Dom is dead right. Look, fundamentally, he is dead right. But I do honestly think cards like that, they open up high mana value commanders. Niv Mizzet is 6. It's 3 blue, 3 red. It's really difficult to get that, but when you had a Jeweled Lotus, you can get him out that bit quicker, and you can, I still feel like I don't feel like I ever played a game where someone played a Jeweled Lotus and that person didn't basically get the whiplash back from playing it. I always felt like it was semi self-regulating, because I think a lot of people would be like, right, but you're dead right, Dom. That's that could be a turn 1 braids, and that could be massively problematic. So I see both sides of it, but I also would like to see that unbanned.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it is interesting because, like you say, there's certain commanders that are like 6, 7, even 8 or more mana. It'd be great to play, but the game's just kind of moved on from them a little bit because it's so much faster.
Yeah, they're trying to take by taking fast mana away. It makes those low mana commanders so much incredibly more powerful, but it also has the reach of the higher ones.
Or you have to get such huge value from, like, Italy is probably an extreme example because you probably get too much value from it. But yeah, when you're looking to cast a commander at that mana level, that's almost what you need. To be achieving with it. It needs to have some instant effect, or an enter the battlefield effect at least.
Yeah. Look, guys, I feel like I could sit here and talk to you guys for another hour or so, but we have been recording for quite a while, so I think it's probably a really nice time at that point to start mopping them up. First and foremost, Sam, thank you so much for joining us, man. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I learned from Vegas. I love sitting down and chatting with you, and it was always looking forward to having you on the pod, and I could sit here for hours on end and continue to talk to you. But for anyone that doesn't know, wouldn't know what they wouldn't, but tell us, just tell the audience where they can find you and all the usual stuff, and fire that all off.
We are on we're probably easiest to find on YouTube. If you search for Manasplaining and then tell YouTube that, no, you did me mansplaining, not mansplaining. That's probably the easiest way to find us. I think it's youtube.com/ManasplainingMTG. Someone else has got Manasplaining, which is really annoying. And that's probably the best place to find us. We do also have Instagram, same handle, but I think it's just Manasplaining. So if you like casual or just just chilled out people who like shouting at each other across the table and playing Commander, then we're definitely worth a watch. Give us a shot, and try not to go too mean to us in the comments like everybody else does.
Just
please,
just make it all good interaction.
There's constructive criticism.
There's a cut in the latest episode, or one of the episodes recently, where Jake looks down the barrel of the lens and goes, I have to be really careful with this card now because I'm so afraid of what the comments might say if I play it wrong. He's been hollowed out by the comments. It's so funny.
Anyway. No.
Just misplay on purpose and see if the comments pick it up. That's what you do. Just sneak in a few misplays and see if they can get them all.
It's all good interaction, my dude. I'm telling you, every comment.
Yeah, that's true.
Every comment.
That's true. I wish I could say it was intentional. It's not.
Yeah, I think we all feel like that from time to time. Don't you worry, buddy. So, look, what do you guys think? Everyone that's like listening and watching. What do you guys think to these unbannings? Do you agree with them? Do you who wants to see that sort of paradox engine coming undone or something like that? Whoa, that is crazy. That is wild.
I put my thumbs up and now this is happening. I don't know what's going on.
So for anyone that's listening to the pod and not watching, they'll be like, "What the hell just happened?" So if you want to know what happened, you're gonna have to go on YouTube and watch it. Hey!
That was great.
Right off the cuff, that one was. Yeah, so what do you guys think about these unbannings? Do you agree with them? Do you disagree with them? What do you want them to unban next? I think that'll be an interesting conversation in about 6-ish months' time. I think there'll be lots to talk about that. Dom, my friend, you got any Magic up and coming? I know you're missing Command Fest, unfortunately, aren't you?
No, I'm not.
Oh no, you are. Oh no, it's
awesome.
It was Chris that was not. That's what not going, wasn't it? Yeah.
I had that in my head from last night. That's what that was.
No, I'll be there both days. So yeah, say hi if you see me.
Excellent. You're gonna be there.
Yeah. Apart.
Sorry, Sam. You're gonna be there, aren't you? Yeah, Command Fest.
Yes, I am going to be there, and I think all of the other core Manasplainers are going to be there as well, which is exciting. So it'll be me, me, Hamish, Dane, and Jake are all going to be there. And we're going to be kicking around. We basically just want to play some games. I think we're doing a little bit of filming, but we have nothing else booked in. We're there to play Commander, and that's it. So if you see us, come play with us, please.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to pop by and say hi at the very least. If we find some time, maybe catch a game. That'd be awesome. Be good to do that.
Yeah,
that'd be so good.
Happy days.
All I would say, everyone, is it might be worth, given that they're talking about them more often, just pick up a copy of each of the cards on the ban list. If you can find them nice and cheap, because obviously as these cards get unbanned, they spike in value, and you might find suddenly a 20p card is now a £20 card, and you can't get a hold of it. So it might be worth doing. Read through the article, see what you think. But yeah, that's probably what I'm going to end up doing.
Yeah, definitely read through the article. I think it's an interesting read, and I think it's a real insight into their handling and then moving forwards. Right, okay, let's wrap this up. So what do you guys want us to talk about next? Get in contact with us on the socials. We're always open to subjects. We've got potentially some really interesting guests coming up, so we're looking forward to nailing them down and moving forward. But yeah, what do you guys want us to talk about next? And we can always accommodate that. Dom, Sam, thanks for Sam, first of all, thanks for jumping on. Dom, always a pleasure. And we'll see our audience. We'll see you in the next pod. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.